Elbaf will reveal why Kaido's backstory remains incomplete and why his childhood seems filled with pain and rejection. After King Harold's portrait was revealed, many theories emerged suggesting that Kaido is somehow related to him. But what if I told you that there are way more hints than just visual resemblance? Could Kaido actually be connected to Harold? Let's take a look. This theory gains traction when you consider that Kaido used an attack called Conqueror of the Three Realms, Ragnarok. The Three Realms connects directly to the Three Realms of Elbaf. Moreover, Ragnarok originates from Norse mythology, which heavily inspired Elbaf, further strengthening the idea of Kaido's possible Elbaf origins. Loki is fated to break free during Ragnarok. Meanwhile, Ragnir seems like wordplay combining Ragnarok and Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. The connection between Loki and Kaido is enforced by their childhood weapons. Both wield kanabo, a spiked club traditionally associated with Oni. Given these links, it's possible that King Harold had 3 sons, each with a different mother. Loki is 67 meters tall, possibly due to having an ancient giant mother. Hyriden is 22 meters tall, likely born from a regular giant mother. Kaido is 7.1 meters tall, suggesting his mother may have been human. There's a clear pattern in height. Loki is 3 times taller than Hyriden, and Hyriden is 3 times taller than Kaido. This suggests a gradual size reduction from ancient giants to giants and to Oni. Kolon is giant as well, indicating maternal height inheritance. Hyriden is shorter than Loki, possibly because his mother was not an ancient giant. By this logic, Kaido's height could reflect his human mother's, even if King Harold was his father. It's possible King Harold met a human woman in the Vodka Kingdom and had a child with her, a child he later rejected. This would explain why Kaido's backstory feels incomplete and confusing. As Kaido grew up, he believed he was destined to be Joy Boy, even though he wasn't. This mirrors his possible half-brother Loki, who also believes he is the Sun God. This theory could also explain Kaido's lifelong bond with Big Mom, who herself has deep ties to Elbaf. Big Mom's past also feels incomplete. After learning Elbaf's weakness is fire and thunder, there's a strong chance that both Big Mom and Kaido will arrive at Elbaf, making this arc even more exciting. Surprisingly, Lin Lin, like Kaido, grew to an enormous height. There were theories that Big Mom was an artificial giant, but it was never explained. This is a strange pattern with the Rocks pirates. Similarly, there are theories about Whitebeard being a buccaneer, which also fits well with this theme. In conclusion, Kaido's appearance, weapon, attack names, and Norse mythology references all point toward him being King Harold's half-human son. This could explain his unusual height, his tragic backstory, and his strong connection to Lin Lin. Now, let's talk about Harold, why Loki had to kill him. As you know, in the latest chapter, Loki admitted to killing his father, but insists it wasn't in cold blood and that Hyriden is missing the bigger picture. Most fans, including me, believe Loki is referring to the fact that Harold had fallen under the control of the celestial dragons. The manipulation of King Harold began long before current events. If we go back to Big Mom's flashback, we can see that even 63 years ago, Harold was already being influenced by characters like Mother Caramel. The giants of Elbaf have always been known as some of the greatest warriors in the world. It makes perfect sense why the world government would want to weaken them from within. This reflects real-world history too, when Christian forces sought to change Viking culture, often enforcing mass conversions. Oda likely based King Harold on the legendary Viking warrior Harald Hardrada. Hardrada is now remembered as one of the greatest Viking kings in history, but he didn't claim the throne easily. He had to fight for it. Harold was actually Christian, having been baptized at birth, even though Vikings traditionally hated Christians. I believe this detail is one of the most essential if we want to truly understand Oda's inspirations and intentions behind King Harold's character. Oda has hinted at the impact of this cultural shift since the very beginning of this arc. For example, the mention of crucifixion, a punishment never used by Vikings and most often associated with Roman Catholicism. This cultural change aligns with the idea that the world government is inspired by Roman Catholic traditions. Symbolism for this is everywhere, but most notably, we saw the recent crucifixion of Don Quixote Miosgard. King Harold wanted to expand Elbaf's trade, and the most effective way to do that was by gaining affiliation with the world government. Such an alliance would open access to trade with over 170 nations. This was likely the leverage the celestial dragons used to manipulate him. And this is where Vegapunk becomes relevant. Vegapunk has a history with the giants and visited Elbaf 20 years ago, which is 6 years before Loki killed Harold. That timing suggests something pivotal happened during that period. Going back to Punk Hazard, we saw a chamber full of frozen giants, likely test specimens used by Vegapunk to further his research into gigantification. But this raises an important question. Where did Vegapunk get so many giants from? Were they really taken from Impel Down? Or were they taken from Elbaf? Besides Mother Caramel, Vegapunk is another character with clear ties to both Elbaf and the world government. It's certainly possible that Vegapunk was also influencing King Harold to cooperate, just like he himself did. King Harold actually shares some key traits with Vegapunk. Both wanted to establish peace in the world, but in both cases, that naive dream ended with them being manipulated by the world government. With all of this in mind, it feels incredibly suspicious that Oda chose to repeat this specific pose with both Vegapunk and King Harold. It may seem far-fetched, but to me, that repetition feels intentional. This could be something Oda intends to reveal through the newly introduced Vegapunk clone, the one who visited Elbaf 20 years ago. I believe this clone will become a central piece in uncovering the conspiracy behind the manipulation of King Harold. So it seems that King Harold was being influenced by the world government agents for Loki's entire life, at least 63 years. But that raises the question, why didn't Loki kill Harold sooner? Surely there was already enough motive if Harold was effectively selling out his own country and people. It's likely that Loki did oppose his father's decisions and leadership, but not to the extent of wanting to kill him. However, if Loki were to discover that Harold had been allowing his own people to be abducted for world government experiments, that might have been the final straw. We already know that Mother Caramel was a world government agent involved in human trafficking, and many of her victims likely became early test subjects in these same experiments. That would mean Harold allowed his people to be taken twice, first through Caramel and later through Vegapunk. If this proves true, it would be the biggest scandal Elbaf has seen in centuries. A king, celebrated as the greatest warrior of his time, allowing his own people to be experimented on just to gain favor and connections with the world government. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? It strangely mirrors Kaido's backstory. Yet another hint that Kaido might be related to Harold. And this is where Vegapunk's role becomes clear. I believe Vegapunk convinced Harold to comply with the Celestial Dragons and used the opportunity to take giants from Elbaf as test subjects for his gigantification experiments. Eventually, I think King Harold realized he had been trapped and that there was only one way out. He had to die. This is why Loki says he killed his father reluctantly, because his father told him it had to be done. The real reason Loki killed King Harold is because Harold personally asked him to, knowing he had fallen too far under celestial control and that there was no other escape. If all of this turns out to be true, then Loki might be One Piece's version of Itachi. He killed his own father, not out of hate, but because he thought it was the only way to save his country, to free Elbaf from the control of the Celestial Dragons. But instead of being seen as a hero, the people he tried to protect now hate him for it. They've even chained him to a tree, calling him a traitor, even though he probably made the hardest decision of his life. Just like Itachi, Loki became the villain in everyone's eyes, even though he did it for the greater good. There is another option that maybe Harold never told him to do it. Maybe Loki made the choice by himself, believing it was the right thing. We don't know if he loved his father, but it was still his father. That's never an easy thing to do, no matter the reason. Still, the idea stays the same. A hidden hero who made a huge sacrifice and got nothing but blame for it. That's it for today. Let me know what you think about these ideas down in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about Loki and his powers, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching. Bye.